So I've got a story to tell you, but I have a lot to do, so I'm going to tell it to you while I'm putting away my groceries. First of all, Beth came down this past weekend to visit and to bring some of her stuff down because she's going to be moving in August. So she comes down and we're hanging out for a little bit, maybe like half an hour, and all of a sudden the fire alarms start going off. And last year when Beth and I were in Coburg, they did fire alarms all the time, fire testing, or alarm testing, whatever they call it, all the time. So we got used to ignoring them because they didn't actually make us evacuate a lot of the time. So we're standing there for like probably a good minute before one of us is like, oh, you know what, we have to actually listen to those here. So we go out into the hall and can't really see anything, don't see any smoke, so we're like, well, we should still probably evacuate. All of a sudden, this woman comes running down the hall, pounding on everyone's doors, and saying, you have to get out, there's an active fire in the building. And we're like, alright, so we leave. I had my backpack right next to the door, which had my laptop in it, and I was like, well, I might as well bring that since it's right next to the door if there's a fire. I had to go grab Boone, who was Missy's cat, who got scared by the alarms and was running and hid under the bed. So I grabbed Boone and put him in his little carrier thing. We went outside and we stood outside and couldn't see any smoke, and we're like, alright, what are we doing out here? And then finally, I mean, there were a ton of fire trucks and stuff, but we couldn't really see anything. So finally the alarms went off and they were like, okay, it was probably electrical in the house or the apartments on the east side were on the northwest corner on top, and they were on the northeast corner on top. But it's 4 apartments on top and 4 apartments on bottom, and each set is divided by a firewall. So our side of the building was completely unaffected. So they're like, all right, well, I mean, it's over, we got it, and you guys can go back to your apartment. So we went back in. I texted Missy, told her what was up. She panicked and drove home from work, and then before she even got back, it was done and we were back in the apartment. So we're like, alright, this is great. Missy leaves to go decorate a float for church, for the parade. And like 3 hours later, the fire alarms go off again, and we're like, oh, that's fantastic, that shouldn't be happening. But we thought maybe it's still just, you know, wires are mixed up or whatever. So we wait, and nothing happens, and so we're like, okay, well, I guess we should probably go out into the hallway. Well, then we could see smoke going past the window, so we're like, okay, yeah, we have to get out. So I had to chase Boone down again and put him back in his carrier, and I didn't have any time to grab my books or anything, and my room is right next to the door, so I'm panicking about all my books are gonna burst into flames, and the chest that Carol just gave me is gonna get smoke damage. And so I shut the patio door, shut all the windows, grabbed Boone, got him out. Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Boone was scared, but he was manly about it, weren't you? Mwah. Yes, you were. So then we went outside, and we stood outside for a really long time while the fire trucks showed up and put everything out. And turns out the fire wasn't out the first time it got into the walls. Boone just ran past, and I don't know why. Got into the walls, got into the ceiling, and started another fire. Still on the same side though, and we still weren't affected, but we were outside for like 3 hours. And by this time it was like 9 o'clock at night, so we're standing outside, it's getting dark, and all the fire trucks, they had 2 alarms. Every fire truck in Cedarburg showed up, and they called in reinforcements from Grafton because they weren't sure if it was going to spread and, you know, apartment fires. Not fantastic. So they called out like all the reinforcements. So part of me is sitting there like, fire trucks, woo, emergency, this is great. And then obviously the other part was, oh, that's my building that they're fighting, so that's not fantastic. But they ended up turning off the electricity and the utilities in our building because I thought it was an electrical fire. And one of our utilities is gas, which is not a good thing to have when fighting a fire, so they turned that off. And then they put everything out, and the firemen let us go into our room and checked everything out. Well, they checked it out first, and then we got to go in and grab our stuff, and of course I grabbed my books and our story, and that was basically it, my books and our story and clothes. And they're like, okay, well, you can't stay here tonight because all the utilities are off, and we want to make sure we're checking everything out, because because it was the second time they had been there that night. So then they were like, well, Red Cross is here, they're going to set you up and then whatever. Well, that weekend was also Summerfest and Strawberry Fest in Cedarburg, which is a really big deal. So all the hotels everywhere were booked. So the closest they were finding anything was in Sheboygan, which is like an hour away. So Missy lives in Beaver Dam, or her family lives in Beaver Dam, which is also an hour away. So we're like, all right, we'll just go home, we'll go to Missy's, we'll stay there for the night. So we went back and told the Red Cross people that we were going to find our own lodging, and they were like, okay, sounds good. And then we left. And then Saturday morning, the building manager called us and was like, hey, utilities are back on, you can go back. And we're like, all right, fantastic. So we came back and everything's fine and there's no damage and nobody was hurt, which is good. Then yesterday, the building manager slipped notes under all of our doors and we're like, hey, sorry about the inconvenience of your building being on fire and all, so you only have to pay half rent this month. Woo! So that's exciting because I'm cheap. So, and now, nobody will ever make, or at least Beth and Missy won't ever make fun of me for watching Emergency again, because all the fire trucks are showing up and I'm like, ooh, that's the snorkel truck and that's what they're doing and they're doing this, and oh look, a foam truck, they're gonna bring that in, it's gonna be so exciting. And I was narrating what was happening and it was kind of exciting. And then the firemen came up and were talking to us and basically repeated everything I had just told them, and they were like, score. So there's my free ticket to watch as much Emergency as I want because it's useful information now. Yay. So that's my story. That was probably a long time, and I'm going to start dinner now because I'm very hungry. So talk to you later. Bye.